Hello everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful day. I don't intend for this to be a long video, but I guess I'm off from work tonight, so I was sitting at home breaking up some weed, and I was listening to Ali Dawa and God Logic, um, debate about Christianity and Islam. And they were having another debate about the impossibility and the possibility of God being fully man and fully human. So, a lot of times when I get into like certain debates and certain issues, especially when dealing with Ali Dawa and the other guy, Muhammad Hijab, God Logic, David Woods, all those guys. One guy I don't really like, particular Sam Shimon or whatever his name is. These everybody's gonna be fiery about what they believe in, but I've heard Sam Shimon say some pretty sick stuff, which isn't funny. But anyways, the point is, when listening to Ali Dawa and God Logic at Speaker's Corner, I then realized that I came up with an impossibility to the God complex that can never be answered. And if ever answered, there will only be the wrong answer. And I'm going to explain what I mean if you're still listening. Is God powerful enough to create a rock that he cannot lift? And all answers are incorrect because I'm going to explain why. Isn't that quite the explanation? I'm going to explain why. That's Trump, ain't it? I'm sorry. Um, because we'll say that God is all powerful with all things. So if you say God cannot create a rock that is too heavy for him to lift, you say he's not powerful enough. If you say that God can't create a rock that is too powerful for him to lift, you then say he is not powerful to lift something he just created. And so I was thinking about that, and then something interesting popped up into my head. The answer to that is infinite. It is the answer to that is one third. It is eternal. You cannot split 100 evenly three ways without splitting it for eternity, from my direct knowledge. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe this is quirky. Maybe nobody will even hear what I'm saying. But the problem with God ultimately is that man created God. They created the Spirit, they created the Word. And so no matter how logical you want to be, it will never be logical. Because essentially, I'm going to give another explanation. If you were to reset humanity right now, nothing would be the same. Not the language, not the structures. We might live in circle houses, not the wheel, not the fire, or how we use fire, not the foods that we eat. Nothing would be the same. I'm saying that to let you all know that our godliness comes from our ability to create and do what we will, but at the same time, sometimes things get outside of our will and become too powerful for even us to comprehend or handle. The only thing that will remain constant, if humanity were to reset, depending on our biological makeup and how things work out, is eating, sleeping, and breathing. And with the eating comes drinking. But essentially, no matter how logical you ever want to be for God and religion, it will never be logical enough to be universal like Catholicism wants to be. I was also listening to Gino Jennings talk to another logical pastor, and they both sounded sincere. But the only person that kept popping up in the back of my head was John Core Books. Because while both pastors were talking about what they believe in, they were taking the book literally. I'm going to give you an example. Pastor Jennings believes in extreme literalization. If the book says it, that's what it means, which that's his belief system. But the pastor with him also believes in the book literally. So I'm going to give you an example. The pastor said, one of the pastors said that Women can minister because when the man ministered to the woman at the well, she then went and ministered to a bunch of people and they received Jesus because of her testimony. Well, the dude said, well, the moment she talked to Jesus and then talked to the people, she became a preacher. She preached the message and they were saved. Well, Jennings said, no, any man that adds to this book or takes away from the book he said was in the revelation will be plagued. Well, the problem with that is then there would be no such thing as preachers or anything. Everything is metaphorical. You take a scripture and then you preach about it all day, giving examples and things like that. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm going to say something I told a friend the other day. The problem with the Bible and literalism and something being set in stone is that there are billions of us and none of us are the same. So no matter how literal the book is written, the book could say, blah, blah, blah is bad, don't do it. And still 8 billion people are going to perceive that in their own way. I was just talking to my stepdaughter about this. I call her my stepdaughter. Maybe I should say a good friend. Nothing we do, no culture is. Nothing is set in stone. I was asking a friend a long time ago because he talks about Jesus, Christianity, and all this stuff all the time. I said, if you were raised in the Middle East and all you heard and knew was Muhammad and Islam, you would know nothing about this Jesus stuff. All your visions and dreams and everything else that you have about Jesus and all this other stuff would be of Muhammad or something in Islam. Your nurture, which is not your nature, your nurture, your environment, is that of Jesus Christ. Many of us, United States, or certain things. Take food, for an example. I like burgers and fries and chicken, but that's what I'm exposed to. But if I go to another country, you take children from other countries, they eat things we wouldn't believe. But children here don't really like vegetables and stuff. It's because of the environment and what we're exposed to. So, I give many examples of why any argument about God is the most important thing ever, but also the most fallacy, the most silly thing a man could do, full of fallacy. I can tell people all day what I feel about God, and it could be the most helpful thing in the world and the most destructive thing in the world. It's about how I use it and my intentions. Even if I am perceived to be doing a good thing, if my intentions are corrupt, then the whole thing is corrupt. I want to give a message to America and why there's so much debt. This system, while being praised by all these unaware buffoons, is unsustainable. It's unsustainable because the system was built upon theft and free labor. And so no matter how many laws you create, no matter how much infrastructure you do, how many bills you pass, unless radically changed, this country is going to continually be in debt because it's not used to helping people. This country wasn't built on Medicaid and SNAP and those type of programs. It was built on slavery and theft. Slavery means instead of paying your employees, they work for free, so all of your product is gain. So every year the debt goes up, because you cannot maintain helping people and building your military and doing all this buffoonery and having a capitalistic system, because capitalism by nature means you gain while others pay you to gain. Politics, the current system of politics, there are too many people involved, too many institutions. You guys do this to say you don't want a central king. But the only thing that's created are millions of corrupt kings in every branch of government. And then the few people that want to do right are overshadowed by the corruption because of the narratives that are created. So, back to religion. Not even back to religion. I have all the power to do whatever I want in this world. Sometimes people will hear me say, my will be done. What I will, I do. And they think, oh, corrupt. But the problem is you're hearing me say that from a corrupt heart, from corrupt ears from knowledge of corruption. If I say I do what I will, maybe I will to do what's right and help other people at all times. And anything outside of that causes me harm and pain on the inside. So then somebody can hear me say that and accuse me of being corrupt, not realizing, I will to do what's right and by my perception. Not, oh, a book says this is right. These people tell me this is right. Humans are based on punishment and rewards, pain versus reward. So if I know something causes pain, I try to avoid that so that others won't feel something that even causes me malcontent. Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are fighting now. Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes are fighting now. Trump is suing all these people and arresting people for talking against him. But with a straight face, all people will talk about is the freedoms of America. I keep telling you all, this country is not free. Do you not know that even the idea of pure freedom is buffoonery? I don't mean imprisoning people and causing harm. People all the time say freedom of free speech. I can't say whatever I want. Why would you want to say anything under the sun? That's not freedom. That's harm. Here's a circle. Split the circle in half. Everything on this side of the circle causes harm. Everything on this side of the circle causes positivity that you are aware to from the best of your ability. Why would you want to go on this side of the circle with the knowledge you possess and cause harm because you can? Why? I gotta be honest, with intellect, awareness, and knowledge comes pain. One of my biggest problems in life is I don't like to be counterproductive. I don't like to do things that don't lean towards productivity. So for a reason to be done. And a lot of times I come into contact with, I'll give you a simple example. You will find people at work that don't want to work no hours and get sick and tired of being there. And they tell you over and over, especially when they tell you they're looking for a new job, cutting their hours. You tell them one time how much you make because you work full-time and or want to work hours. And watch and see if they don't cause so much shit with your schedule and so much problems. That's the nature of life, humanity. People will complain and not want something. And as soon as they see you finding joy in something, they will try to take it because they think the joy came from the stuff you are possessing, not realizing that it comes from you in the heart. So then they get more and it messes up the whole matrix of something, right? Sets something off balance. People wanted entitlement. I am a pure blood American, so I deserve these things and other people don't. I got these things rightfully and other people don't deserve them and they can leave. That's called entitlement. You were born out of a vagina like everybody else and taught how to do everything you know. You're not entitled to anything outside of what anybody else is entitled to if you didn't earn it and work for it. So with that being said, in my heart, I believe everybody are entitled to certain things like food, health care, safety. If you argue, no, those things aren't rights, then get out of civilization and go live in the jungle where things try to eat you and kill you constantly. And when you come back, I can remind you that everybody deserves that. Many of the people that complain about DEI are DEI and didn't know it. Many of the people complaining about immigrants and people of color thrive from the work they do. So I honestly just wanted to bring up the same reason why I brought up the idea of God, the idea of the fallacy of the imagery and the little cartoony superpowers we give to magical spirits that we create ourselves. So when I was listening to Nick Fuentes talk to Candace Owens about Nick Fuentes said a couple things in this recent interview with Candace Owens. You can watch it. Just watch Candace Owens interview Nick Fuentes. You might get a bunch of the aftermath with the reactions, but Nick Fuentes told Candace with a straight face, Africans didn't have language. Africans didn't know about farming and civilization. We didn't know. The language one really got me in the farming one, but he said a bunch of things that we were uncivilized and didn't have. But even if you go to Google within the European infrastructure, they'll tell you the oldest language is Giz, older than the hieroglyphics. Over 6,000 years old now. Older than a tomb. Right? So hear me out. So Candace, they don't seem to know any of that stuff. They're not historians. They don't know things like that. They're talking points, and they use fiery words to do it. So Nick Fuentes, so Candace brought up, what about the Egyptians and the Africans? And you know what Nick Fuentes said? They're not Africans. They're Arabs. They're a different race. That's like me going to Europe and telling Germans, better example, that's like me going to Europe and telling Spaniards and Britons and the Irish, they're not European and they had no contribution to anything. If you know anything about human history, the Hyksos, the Arabs, the Asiatic shepherd kings y'all are talking about, invaded Africa in 2000 BC, 1900 BC, 1800 BC. Then later the Europeans did. Now type in Christian and Islamic control over Africa and look at a map of it. This is why life is interesting, and I don't know who to advocate for, but just the poor. The Arabs want you to think that the Europeans are so bad right now, and the Jews. Now go look up what some of these princes, kings, and wealthy people in these Arabic countries are doing to Africans and African servants still. It's all hypocrisy. It's all bullshit. That's why I try to give as many talking points, and I try to talk to people from as many different levels as I can to show people that a lot of this stuff in the world is hypocrisy. You guys keep talking about the Bible. I've heard Jennings and them talk about the Holy Bible and the doctrine. And That book is from the Pope. Mount Sinaiticus, the Codex Sinaiticus. The one pastor said, I'd have to look it up in Hebrew and Why? There's older versions in Roman, in Rome, in Latin. All these books, the oldest Torah they have is from 1000 AD. I've said this many times. There's no Torahs from before that. Carbon date as much as you want. So the same fallacy, can God create a rock so powerful that he cannot lift it? And the same idea that the same fallacy that they give God all these eternal, before the universe began, after it ends, eternal attributes, and say he cannot be a man. Whatever the God is, created all the stuff, has all ultimate power, but can't be a man. But then at the same time, lying about the powers men have. We don't walk on top of water without scientific or other reasons why. Because of buoyancy, because of the gravitational pull that rips through hydrogen bonds. That's why water is held together, the molecules, the electric charge of them. But the only thing science can ever do is describe from our perspective, from a language we created, what is actually particles, atoms, are not real in a sense that what you're doing is taking something that's whole and complete and measuring it and document parts of it and taking magnifying glasses and microscopes and taking parts of a whole. String theory. Well, it's all connected. It's all one. It's one universe. But we as humans like to categorize things, like time. Sure, time can be as real as you want it to be. But in essence, it's not. It's a measuring tool we created to map the distance between the different chemical equations within this one whole thing. The reason why the law will never fade and is the most important law is because love who I am with all my heart and soul and love others the same. There you go. You all think that love, I'll give you an example. Another reason why the system won't ever, y'all are taking old institutions, and I hear people all the time saying, stop painting over cockroach dust and cockroaches and light switches landlords. That's what America's doing. Police were slave catchers, working with slavery. The corporation plantations was the southern plantation. You guys are taking wounds, flesh wounds, and instead of bringing a wound nurse in to dress the wound and repack it and everything else, y'all are basically taking new padding and putting over it every time the old padding gets old. And boy, there's going to be an infection from hell in those wounds when y'all take the bandages off. And that's the logistics of the world. We love God and we want to do better, but we got to destroy the Catholics. We love God and we go to do better, but the Jews are evil. We love God and we want to do better, but the blacks and the Baptists and the gays and the blah, 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 blah. You cannot build on top of love with hate. We're going to do an equation. 1 + 1 = 2. Love plus love equals love. Love plus hates equals a mixture of the two. I will give you a simple philosophy of my heart that I don't think this is me, Juan Bruce Jr. I am a straight man that loves women. If a gay man tried to come and touch me or do anything to me in any way, I might get fierce. But if a gay man came and had a conversation with me, we would talk peacefully with love and kindness and compassion as I do with anybody else, depending on their personality and character. If a transsexual person came in here and told me their pronouns, I will respect them to the best of my ability and we will respect each other to the best of our ability. Do not say to yourselves, oh, I'm showing love for a reason. That's not how it works. If I build a house and at the bottom of the house is mud and the top of the house is bricks, the house is going to collapse. The stone you're rejecting is common sense. How about that? John Core book says it's all law, but I say before you can reject all the law, you have to reject it for a reason, because you're fucking mentally somewhere else. So I say the stone that they rejected and continually reject is intelligence. Because even if you're intelligent, it seems like intelligent people, the smarter they get, then use technology to murder each other worse. It went from the sword to the fucking bomb. So, is God all this ultimate power became be a man? Is God all this ultimate power became a man and got fucked up by y'all and wanted y'all to create magical, mystical stories and lies? You're both nuts. But who am I to call you nuts? I just think that murdering people, excluding people, and going psycho on people in the name of a magical God none of you all can talk to or get sent to a mental institution, none of you all can talk to about or be murdered, have any room to tell anybody else about morality. So, wow, I just came on a proof point simply. And I have one more warning to tell y'all people. Even I tell y'all about the I am who I am and the 10 Commandments. Fuck that shit if it causes harm. If I am who I am, the 10 Commandments cause you to turn into 10 horns of power and 7 heads that strike for the other 7 laws, and cause the all of law to turn into 1 horn that speaks for you in the head and causes you to cause torment. Fuck all that shit. It is better for your eye to burn in hell than your whole body. But what does hell mean? And will y'all keep being literal? So, what more ultimate power will y'all give to something that isn't real while forsaking what is? I'm noticing in this political, I don't really have too much more respect for the American infrastructure whatsoever. It's all hypocrisy. The world itself, I don't know what the rest of the world is doing. I notice a lot of propaganda and bullshit. And so maybe I'll never truly know. But one thing I do know from my environment in America is that everything my people said about racism was real. Everything they said about but here's the problem with cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance means you're stupid and slow and you don't understand something. These people understand fully and are fully aware of what they're doing. Because Obama was a brilliant man and got called every name in the book. Kamala was a beautiful woman, brilliant woman, and got called every name in the book. This man is on every record I can think of with pedophilia attached to his name and sex trafficking, but they are following this man to the pit. That's racial. I don't, I care what y'all believe. I care about y'all, but I don't. I'm not playing the cognitive stupid fucking games anymore. I don't respond to racists. I don't get excited about the shit. And honestly, I have a new philosophy that I'm staying out of people's faces and cutting all soul ties. I don't need people clouding my judgment. I don't need people playing with me, talking to me like I'm a 2-year-old, like these Fox News analysts do to these 60 and 70-year-olds. That was once talking about get out of my neighborhood N-word. Trump is sitting here firing all these people if they don't say what he likes. But these people are attached to programs like aviation safety, weather safety, protection services for people in communities that are displaced and disfigured, so to speak. Somebody told me the other day, or no, I'm sorry. I was telling somebody something about something, and then a thought came to my mind. I don't have a culture or a history and stuff like that. And I thought about it, I hear people say, get your own culture. But the problem with African American culture, and I'm about to explain this very clearly. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you can ask questions. But if you ask from a point of sarcasm or any type of asinine buffoonery, I'm not responding anymore. And if I do respond, it's going to be something you're not expecting. You see, the problem with African American culture in any marginalized community that I'm noticing is that you all beat them to shit. Then once they're at the bottom and have no real resources or anything, so then they make life amazing with what they have: ribs, hot dogs, chill, all these different foods, all these things that didn't exist before. The music, sports, the entertainment, everything. Y'all then go and leech into it. And if we don't include y'all and accept y'all, we're then reverse racist. I hear people, I was watching this documentary from the 70s, and this white woman stood up and said, what about us that always help your community and stand up with you? And we get nervous when you all march and get violent. And the man looked at her and said, black violence? Y'all the ones killing us, kicking us out of your neighborhoods, slaughtering us, and y'all are afraid of marching down the street asking for equality? Y'all are crazy. Another white woman then stood up and said, racism, slavery, and all that stuff, though it affected our communities, it hurt y'all worse. Y'all are the oppressors, and y'all are afraid of oppressed people because y'all think that other people will do to y'all what y'all did to them. The slaughtering of the minds, Nick Fuentes said Europeans came and taught Africans. I don't know. A lot of times, I start to laugh at people and, and giggle, and then the Lord reminds me, just be humble, man. Them people were trained to be like that. Them people, sometimes I hear them talk. When I was 16 and I turned 18, went to college, and I was learning, and I thought it was all a grift, and so I went hardcore right wing white nationalist. It's like, what does being white do for your character? Some things I don't understand, so I leave them be. And I just continue to study and learn and grow. I'm sorry to all African Americans. I'm sorry to all African peoples across the world. I'm sorry to all marginalized. Maybe you're Kurdish in a messed up area. Maybe you're Turkish in a messed up area. Maybe you're Palestinian right now. Maybe you're African and plenty of hosts of areas. After learning what Belgium did to a lot of it, that there was actually a Holocaust where more people died in Africa, and a lot of people don't know this. But and I'm not talking about the 10 million from the Congo incident with this is like other instances. I didn't know that they killed more people in Africa during the Holocaust event. I didn't know this. All they talk about is the Jews. That's it. So my only advice to a lot of you is, if you're going to, if you, I'm about to say a couple of phrases. This isn't propaganda. I'm not asking you for cash apps. There was a point where I lost my job for like 8 months, and I was asking for a cash app every once in a while, but I wasn't asking for no specific money and just asking for help for food and stuff to survive. I then started donating plasma and doing other things for money, and was surviving comfortably and still preaching and talking. But there was another, before I get into this, there was another point that Pastor Jennings, another pastor, brought up. They were talking about tithes and taking care of the pastors and priests and stuff, if you can. But then one of the pastors said, what if you're a priest waking up at 2 a.m. and you need gas money to go across town and see somebody, or you're doing all this ripping and running, you're out of town or something, and you need food money for an event or something like that. Now Jennings kept saying, I got a job. I took care of my 7 kids. Ooh. But Jennings agreed that after a point, he said, if you need gas money because you're traveling, if you need for people, and of course, like, take care of your priests, take care of the people. But Jennings also made up a good point. Sometimes people think taking care of me is buying a new car, buying a new house, buying all a month's worth of groceries. Now it depends. Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge every situation. I can't judge every situation from my perspective, but even from my perspective, I'm giving my perspective, and I don't know that human's existence or what they went through. So I'd be weary on judging people's situations, and rather taking care of yourself unless it's detrimental or causing harm to people or playing people or robbing them. So take care of people, be humble. But at the same time, I can use any scripture. Jesus said, take nothing with you. But then it says, have tithes and tenths. And then it said, it's your discretion. Maybe somebody comes up and offers you $10,000 because you tried to feed a homeless person. Are you wrong for taking that? There's a lady, she's Canadian, and she just visited Vegas, and she had a good message one time. She said, as many times we all talk about the devil hurt us, and this happened, and that happened, and blah, blah, then somebody come up in life and get a blessing. Oh, they corrupt, they evil, they do. I'm not here to judge every situation like that. I can, if you want to be just like me. But I'm telling you, I am who I am, and you are who you are. And there's I think 3 messages I want to tell y'all. Here's the first one. I am who I am. I am Sydney. I am the one who does anything, who frees from the house of bondage or gets chained there if I choose or will to, because I am the strong man. Like Samson, if I will. Put no gods before who I am. Idol nothing. Do not worship them or bow to them, for I am jealous. Love who I am with all my heart and soul, and thy neighbor the same. Those 10 commandments, look at those like guidelines. You don't want to murder people. You don't want to steal from people. My problem with people with the current idea of theft is, if everybody had what they needed and people were really taken care of, Theft would not be a thing the way it is now. But Trump just declared a war on homelessness. Now, if you're homeless, you can get arrested. Listen to what I'm about to tell you when I said the plantation turns into the plantation. And how when you oppress one people, it comes back to another. Loitering came from when they first freed slaves. They wouldn't get nobody a job. And if you wasn't working and standing around and trespassing and all that stuff, you get arrested. Once you're arrested and a criminal, they can legally make you work for free. It's in the Constitution. Slavery. Now these homeless people are going to start getting rounded up and forced to do things. Something else I want to tell y'all, another saying. This saved my soul. It was one of the scriptures that allowed me to leave the bondage I was in, explore and understand for myself, and see the world for what it was. Because I would have never left had this not been in my heart. I would, two actually. Flee from her, my people. And I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage, for I am with thee. And this day you will inherit the land that I promised your ancestors. Planet Earth, it's our home. Nothing can harm me, because even when I'm going, the Word is going to talk to me, and the Spirit will be there. So, perfect love casts out fear, because in fear is torment. If we are afraid, it is fear of judgment. We do not fear the day of judgment because we live like who I am in the heart and fear nothing. Do not fear what they can do to your flesh, because your flesh is attached to your soul, and that is going to be the last thing to ever talk to you. They call it eternity because I have not met a man who has come back from death yet. But with that same logic, I come with new words that probably won't be found in that book. Baptisms from my heart. Every thought of death is like a number over zero or zero over a number. It is undefined. You are not dead. You are living and have no knowledge of death because you are life. When you are dead, you are no longer consciously here or aware in this form. And so every thought of what that will be is vain and void and undefined. When you go to sleep at night, you do not remember anything after you wake up besides the dreams. And all the hours went by unbeknownst to you. When you go under for surgery, you do not feel any of that or any pain or any of those things when you wake up. When you go into a coma and wake up, you have no idea how much time was gone. The same with life. So every thought of death is vain, especially in pain, because pain is life. Be thou free, and don't be tormented by mankind, because a person is God, but people are stupid pigs. A person is beautiful and can save yourself and himself, and is next to God himself, herself, next to the Creator itself. But people are flocks of animals. Be thou a good person and not a beast of the field. But do not tame thyself unrighteously amid amongst those who held the sword and ended up slaughtered and killed spiritually. Is God powerful enough to create a rock he can't live? He did create me.